So the Philadelphia Eagles are the hottest team in the National Football League, having won 8 games in a row, a lot of them in convincing fashion. And on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field, the Eagles will play host to the Carolina Panthers, searching for their 9th straight victory. You're watching Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Thanks for being here with us. And coming up, we're going to preview this game against Carolina. The stage is set for this Week 14 game. Sunday, December 8th is when it all goes down. Can't believe we're already a week into December at this point. Once this game gets underway, kickoff is slated for 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific at the Lincoln South Philadelphia. The place is going to be rocking. If you're tailgating in the K-Lot prior to the game, have fun. Tune into our watch party. We'll be doing a pregame show. The Eagles are minus 13-point favorites, so nearly 2 touchdown favorites in this game, giving 13 to Carolina and the over-under at 46 even. And speaking of that watch party, Eagles-Panthers live right here on Eagles Now. The show gets started at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, so be sure to hit that sub button and hit that bell icon, turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime we go live, anytime we push out a show, you'll be notified, and we hit you with daily and year-round coverage of the Birds. We really appreciate your support. What we do would not be possible without all of you. So let's start here. This is pretty exciting. It's Week 14. Philadelphia, number 2 seed in the NFC. They are atop the NFC East, and Philadelphia can clinch a playoff spot on Sunday against Carolina. There are 10 ways in which the Eagles can make this happen. Number 1, Eagles win and the Falcons lose or they tie, and then the Seahawks and Cardinals tie. Number 2, Eagles win and Falcons loss or tie, and the Cardinals lose and the Rams lose or tie. Number 3, Eagles win, Falcons loss or tie, and a Cardinals loss and a Lions win or tie. Number 4, Eagles win and a Buccaneers loss or tie, and Seahawks Cardinals tie. Number 5, Eagles win and Buccaneers loss or tie, Cardinals loss and Rams loss or tie. Number 6, Eagles win, Buccaneers loss or tie, and Cardinals loss or Lions win or tie. Number 7, Eagles tie and Falcons loss and Seahawks Cardinals tie. Number 8, Eagles tie and Falcons loss and Cardinals loss and Rams loss or tie. Number 9, Eagles tie, Buccaneers loss, and Seahawks Cardinals tie. And then lastly, number 10, Eagles tie, Buccaneers loss, and Cardinals loss, and Rams loss or tie. I know it's a mouthful. Screenshot that, record it, but that is how the Philadelphia Eagles can clinch a playoff spot on Sunday. As for the NFC Playoff Picture, things are looking pretty for the Birds. Now, a game that we want to keep in mind here is that great Thursday night matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. We are recording this show on Wednesday, December 4th. The Lions, as of this recording, number 1 seed in the NFC at 11-1. 1 game ahead of Philadelphia at 10-2. 2 hottest teams in football right now. You have the Seahawks. They've won 3 games in a row atop the NFC West in the wild NFC West at 7-5. Atlanta Falcons not playing good football. Kirk Cousins just threw 4 picks against the Chargers. They're 6-6. They haven't been able to run away with the division, and so Tampa Bay is still in it, but the Falcons and Buccaneers have already played twice, and the Falcons won both those games. So they own the tiebreaker in a pretty convincing fashion. Then you have the 3 wildcard teams, because the NFC North is probably the best division in football this year, top to bottom. Even the Bears, last place in the NFC North, are very competitive. You have the Vikings in that 5th hole at 10-2. The Packers at 9-3. A win against the Lions would do them a lot of favors. And then you have the Commanders after they dump truck the Titans, still in that 7th spot at 8-5. Other teams in the mix, 3 teams at 6-6. The aforementioned Bucks, Cardinals, Rams. Niners and Cowboys are 5-7. I think they're both cooked. And I did say, Eagles sitting pretty atop the NFC East. I don't envision a scenario in how the Eagles lose their lead in this division. They should win the NFC East for the 2nd time in 3 years. They're 10-2, 2 games ahead of Washington in the win column, 3 in the loss column. Cowboys have won 2 games in a row, but they're 5 games back of Philadelphia at 5-7. And how about those New York Giants? Maybe the worst team in football. They've lost 7 games in a row, 8 games in a row. Either way, they stink. In this game, for Philadelphia, you cannot take Carolina lightly. The The Panthers are feisty. They are well coached. They've improved, and they're much more competitive now than they've been in previous years. Do not let their 3-9 record fool you. Look at what the Panthers have done in the last 5 ball games. 28-14 loss on the road against Denver. Denver much improved. You go to Mile High, oxygen not in your favor, maybe a little bit of a funky smell in the air at times. The real ones know. And the Panthers lost that game by 2 touchdowns. They beat the Saints by 1. They beat the Giants in overtime overseas by 3. They only lost to the Chiefs by a field goal a couple of weeks ago, and that was a really competitive ball game. And then Bryce Young threw a go-ahead touchdown late in the game against the Buccaneers, but they did lose that game against a team that's had Philadelphia's number, 26-23 in overtime. So a lot of close games here, good performances, and some solid wins. And Bryce Young has really improved. Rookie coach Dave Canales, who used to be the Buccaneers OC last year, really maximized Baker Mayfield, benched Young for veteran Andy Dalton after just 2 games in which he had a 44.1 passer rating. The 23-year-old has completed 60.4% of his passes for more than 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks, none, though, in the past 3 games, while going 2 for 3 in the 5 starts since, and Young got that other opportunity to lead the Panthers, and he's played a lot better football. What stands out about Carolina right now, the improvements of Bryce Young. So bad to start the year, so bad last year, but over the last couple of games, has he found something? It's incredible how confidence can go a long way in sports, in life, in a relationship, in business. The Panthers have also invested a lot in the offensive line, and that has paid off and done a lot of dividends for this football team. Chuba Hubbard, he's a good running back, and I know that the Panthers drafted a running back in the 2nd round, Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, but Chuba Hubbard has been looking really good as the rookie running back hasn't been able to play yet coming off a knee injury. This is also a well-coached team as compared to previous years. They play hard, and they're scrappy. What stands out about Philadelphia? They are rolling right now. 8-game winning streak, number 1 rushing offense in the National Football League, averaging nearly 200 yards rushing per ball game. Jalen Hurts is playing really clean football during these last 2 months in which Philadelphia has been lossless. The defense has been dominant, and there's a special vibe around this team. Last year, that dark cloud was hovering over Philadelphia. So much bad body language, people sulking, bad energy on the sideline. This year, that has changed, though. The coaches, you see it. The players, they're rallying around one another. They're hanging out a lot. People are smiling. Now, winning does that, but playing better football does that as well. As for the Eagles' injury report, we'll continue to monitor this throughout the week. Reed Blankenship did not participate in practice on Wednesday because of that concussion that he suffered against the Ravens. That would be a big loss for Philadelphia because he's been a game-changing player coming through in clutch moments, but also one of the top safeties in the NFL this year. Looks like Dallas Goedert is going to be week to week and maybe miss a few games. He's potentially a candidate for IR. The Eagles did sign C.J. Uzomah to the active roster. That could indicate that Goedert could go on IR with a knee injury that he suffered against Baltimore. Devontae Smith, full participant in practice on Wednesday, was very close to playing against the Ravens. Looks like he will play one of the top number 2 wide receivers in the game. And then Darius Slay with that concussion and Johnny Wilson with the hamstring injury present on the practice field on Wednesday. Now, coming up next, we're going to go through my keys to the game, matchups to watch, and what the Eagles have to do to win their 9th straight ball game. But first, where are you at pertaining to this matchup? Let your voices be heard down in the comment section right now. Who you got? CAR for Carolina, PHI for Philadelphia. I'll unveil my score prediction coming up here at the end of the show. But first, let's hit our sponsor, our friends at Game Time. I was hanging out over the weekend, and I was watching NFL football during Thanksgiving. It was so cool to see some families going to some NFL games on the Thanksgiving slate. And then Friday, I'm watching Raiders, Chiefs, very cool environment at Arrowhead Stadium. And then Friday night, how about the twists and the turns of that Georgia Tech game going 8 overtimes? And then I wake up on Saturday, and I'm watching Michigan, Ohio State. What an awesome atmosphere in the Horseshoe. And then later that night, one of the priciest tickets in recent memory, Texas A&M in College Station. If you want to be a part of a great atmosphere like that, download the Game Time app. It really is one of one, both the atmospheres, but also this app. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And what Game Time does that's very unique, they specialize in last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. I love how you can see the vantage point and the price point from your seats, but if you want the bird's eye view here, shout out to the Birds, you can get the bird's eye view of Lincoln Financial Field for this Eagles-Panthers game coming up on Sunday. If you're very specific about what yard line you want to sit at, that's your view right there. You can pay with Venmo, and right now when you download the app and you create an account and you use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, you get $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. What time is it? Game time. We move forward with our preview here. Coming up, here's what the Philadelphia Eagles have to do to win their 9th straight game against Carolina and be victorious in Week 14. We're going through my keys to the game and matchups to watch. Key to the game number 1. I absolutely love the way that Jalen Hurts is playing right now. And some might say, Chase, he's a game manager. He's not doing that much. He's being carried right now by this offensive line, Saquon Barkley, and complementary weapons. Let me counter that by asking you this. Look at what Jalen Hurts has done during this 8-game winning streak. And is this good? 10 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. That's 20 combined touchdowns and 1 interception during this 8-game winning streak. He's the only player in the history of the NFL to do that. So, again, I ask you that question. Is that good? He's the only player to ever do that. Also, if you have Saquon Barkley and arguably the best offensive line, why would you not run it and cater to your strengths? Jalen Hurts, if he's being a game manager right now, that's fine because that's how this Eagles team is built, relying on talent, relying on your strengths. That's what good football teams do because they lean on their identity. But Chase, he doesn't have to throw. Eagles have arguably the best offensive line in football, and Saquon is the NFL Offensive Player of the Year. So smart football is when you lean on your pillars as a football team, and that's what Philadelphia is doing. And when Jalen Hurts has had to make throws, he's been able to do that, and he's making good decisions and not turning it over. Remember early in the year, Hurts is killing this team right now. He can't stop coughing it up. Fumbles left, interceptions right. He's wiped that away, and he's cleaned that up with this game, and it's been huge during this 8-game winning streak. And Jalen Hurts' dual threat ability makes him unique. Those 20 total touchdowns and 1 pick, that's excellent football right there, and he's a big reason why the Birds are rolling. And look, if you're going to talk about Josh Allen being an MVP candidate, let's stack up Hurts' numbers with Allen's numbers. Completion percentage goes to Hurts. Passing yards, slight edge to Allen. Rushing yards, edge to Hurts. Total touchdowns, both with 26. Passer rating, Hurts, 101.8, 100.3 for Josh Allen. Allen might have more attempts, but the point here being, Hurts deserves to be in that MVP consideration. There's also this. When talking about Carolina, their defensive front is not good. And they can't rush the quarterback or apply pressure on the quarterback. And so this Eagles offensive line and Hurts should be able to eat. Carolina has 21 sacks. It's 29th among 32 teams in the NFL. Key to the game number 2. Eagles defensive line against this Panthers offensive line. This Panthers offensive line last year, straight up abysmal. This year, they've been a lot better. That's evidenced by Chuba Hubbard having a good year and Bryce Young being more comfortable when he drops back to sling it. This Panthers offensive line, left to right, Ikem Ekwonu at left tackle, Damian Lewis at left guard, Cade Mays at center, Robert Hunt at right guard. He got a big deal in free agency this offseason. And then Taylor Moton, who's been very durable at right tackle. But Philadelphia in the trenches, they're going to provide a big test for that Carolina front. Josh Sweat now has 8 sacks. Jalen Carter has 4.5. He's been one of the highest graded defensive tackles in the game. Jordan Davis getting better and better over the last couple of weeks. Milton Williams having a career year and a contract year. And then Nolan Smith has 4.5 sacks in his last 8 games. He's really starting to come on. And I think that Philadelphia and Vic Fangio specifically could get exotic up front, twists, stunts, gains. Blur the vision line for Bryce Young. Try to confuse him. Dial up some blitzes from time to time. Involve Jalix Hunt. who had a good kind of extended debut last week. Send home to Kobe Dean and Zach Bond on some of those blitzes. Throw the kitchen sink at Bryce Young. The offensive line might be good, but his wide receiver talent is not good, and I think Philadelphia's front can overpower Carolina in this football game. Key to the game number 3. Eagles defensive backs have an opportunity to shine. All year, Quinyon Mitchell has been able to shine. One of the top overall corners in the game and the best corner in this draft class. The second best corner in this draft class, Cooper DeJean, who's also one of the top corners in the game. And the receiver talent for Carolina is not good, and this is an area that they really have to emphasize, especially if they want to give Bryce Young a year 3 as this team starter. And keep in mind, it's a pretty weak quarterback class here in the 2025 class. You have David Moore, Xavier Legette, the rookie. I like him, but he's a young player. And then you have Adam Thielen, the veteran out of the slot. He's a dependable player for Bryce Young, but the high-level talent really isn't there. They don't have that preeminent wide receiver, nor is the depth that good. And so if the Eagles up front, especially without blitzing, can get pressure on Bryce Young, the back end should be able to have a field day. And for a young quarterback in a raucous Lincoln Financial Field, it could get loud. He could get pressured into making some mistakes. Philadelphia also has to stop the run and force Bryce Young to throw. If the Eagles are able to be successful in stopping the run and Carolina is pigeonholed into having the throw, this is when this Eagles team, which has been excellent as far as generating turnovers during this 8-game winning streak, could really turn the momentum of this game and run away with it. Chuba Hubbard having a really, really good year. 189 carries, 919 yards, 7 touchdowns along at 38. Keep in mind that Miles Sanders signed with Carolina last year, the former Eagle, after that career year in 2022. There was never any space or running lanes for him. He really struggled to have success running the football. So it's pretty impressive that with some of those offensive line changes, Chuba Hubbard has been able to have a really good year. Sanders, by the way, on IR. He got hurt in that overseas game against the Giants. Lastly, key to the game number 5. Is this a game where the Eagles might have to manage Saquon Barkley a little bit? He's had a fantastic year, but keep in mind what the Eagles have ahead of them. Super Bowl aspirations, trying to get that number 1 seed, trying to keep Saquon Barkley healthy. Philadelphia also has the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up in Week 15. They should be able to handle Carolina here, and I don't know if Saquon Barkley's workload should be that high in this football game. The Panthers also have a bad secondary. Devontae Smith looks as though he's going to be coming back, and the Eagles should be able to have success on the ground without having to give Saquon Barkley 25 to 30 carries. He has 246 carries this year, leads the NFL. Nearly 1,500 yards, leads the NFL. Yards per carry is 6.1, number 1 in the NFL. Yards per game rushing, 124.9 per matchup on average, leads the NFL, and he has 13 total touchdowns. You look at the NFL MVP odds, Saquon, number 2 right now. Josh Allen, minus 210. Saquon Barkley, plus 300. Lamar, after that Eagles loss, dropping to 11-1. Jared Goff, 11-1 as well. And then Patrick Mahomes at plus 2,000. NFL Offensive Player of the Year odds. This has really become a non-quarterback award because non-quarterbacks don't really win MVP anymore. Saquon, minus 5,000. So the large favorite there to win NFL OPOY. Derrick Henry at 4-1. Jamar Chase, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson rounding out that list. But is Kellen Moore going to be able to help himself? He has this uber-talented back. Saquon Barkley has been so special this year. And while the Panthers secondary is not good, they're not good against the run either. 27th in yards per rush at 4.8 per carry. 32nd in rushes per game. So teams are running it the most against Carolina. 34.7 attempts on average per game. And they're dead last in rushing yards per game at 166.8. Again, could be a game, though, where Kenneth Gainwell and Will Shipley get some carries. As for how the Eagles stack up, they are now 7th in points per game, 26.7. 4th in yards per game, just a tick under 378. 9th in yards per play. 9th on third downs. 13th in the red zone. They got to get a little bit better capitalizing with touchdowns in the red area, especially as we approach the playoffs. And in the playoffs, when they take on some really good teams, defensively, number 1 defense during this winning streak. Number 4 now season long in points per game. Number 1 in yards per game. Number 1 in yards per play. Number 2 on third downs. And number 5 in the red zone. As for how Carolina stacks up, it's not pretty, but again, this is year 1 of a rebuild with this new regime. 30th in points per game, 30th in yards per game, 24th in yards per play, 27th on third downs, 17th in the red zone. Then you flip to their defense, 32nd in points per game, 31st in yards per game, 28th in yards per play, 32nd on third downs, and 25th in the red area. So with that, predict the score. Panthers on the road against the Eagles. The numbers, the line favoring the Birds. And I'm favoring the Birds as well. Minus 13 is a big number. I think the Eagles are going to be right on it. The Panthers are giving up about 30 points per ball game. I think the Eagles reach that number. This defense plays very well. Carolina gets that garbage time touchdown to make the scoreboard look closer than the game actually indicated. My final score, 30-17.